Good morning. Welcome to the Cochran firm of the Mid-South. My name is Howard Manis. I'm the managing partner of the firm. Along with my partners, Stephen Bush and Sean Williams, we're here today to announce the lawsuit that we have filed on behalf of the family of Matthew Williams against Youth Villages here in Memphis, Tennessee. Friday night, or late Friday afternoon, we filed a wrongful death lawsuit in Shelby County Circuit Court against Youth Villages, arising out of the wrongful death of Matthew Williams while attending a Memphis Allies meeting on South Mendenhall Road on April 9th, 2025. First, I'd like to introduce to everyone Crystal Buck. Ms. Buck is the mother of Matthew and the entire family. And we would like to thank the entire family for being here today and entrusting us with this important lawsuit. We offer our deepest condolences to each of you for the loss of your loved one. We are fully committed to tirelessly work to achieve justice for the family and for Matthew. He did not die in vain. The lawsuit, as you can see, is plentiful. Seeks monetary damages for the wrongful death of Matthew resulting from the negligent and reckless conduct, actions, decisions, and inactions of Youth Villages. In its simplest term, the lawsuit alleges that Matthew Williams was shot and killed while participating in a Memphis Allies program in Hickory Hill area on April 9th, 2025, for the following reasons. Youth Villages failed to exercise reasonable care and maintain reasonably safe premises. Youth Villages failed to provide reasonable security measures at the Hickory Hill location. Youth Villages failed to protect Matthew and other participants from known dangers. Youth Villages failed to warn Matthew and others about those known dangers. Youth Villages failed to remove those individuals who presented a clear and present danger to those who attended. Youth Villages failed to discontinue or modify the group dynamic when faced with real and present danger caused by participants and others. This lawsuit seeks substantial compensatory and punitive damages for the loss of the life of Matthew Williams. The defendants. Youth Villages and Youth Villages Foundation is a known entity in this community. Historically, Youth Villages worked in the community and dealt with children with mental health and behavioral problems. Prior to this, they had not worked with adults over age of 25 and had done no work in gun violence. Memphis Allies was launched by Youth Villages in 2021 to combat violence in the city, gun violence in the city. Youth Villages historically has used Memphis and the Memphis communities as a laboratory to ultimately to monetize their projects and sell them across the country to other municipalities. Youth Villages obtained substantial public and private funding to operate Memphis Allies. While Memphis Allies' purpose appears to be noble, its implementation, operation, and supervision of the program, especially in the Hickory Hill area, was anything but. Utilizing a proprietary program switch, Youth Villages sought to serve individuals in the highest risk for involvement in gun violence. Many of the participants were gang members, extensive involvement in the criminal justice system, prior records of being involved in shootings, and have close friends and family members who were recently shot or shot at. As I said, Youth Villages had no previous work in the high-risk people involved in gun violence before launching Memphis Allies. Memphis Allies knew this program was dangerous. Susan Deason, the executive director of Memphis Allies, was quoted as saying, "We're going to have to take a certain amount of risk to reap the rewards. We understand it's going to put us at some amount of liability. It is this known danger that forms the basis of Youth Village's duty to provide reasonable security and protection to participants like Matthew who were invited to the program. Let me tell you a little bit about Matthew. At the time of his death, Matthew was only 22 years old. After aging out of the Mississippi welfare system, Matthew moved back to Memphis and home with his family. Matthew lived in a loving, extended family, which included his mother, Crystal Buck, his grandmother, May Parker, his sisters, Olivia and Taisha, his younger brother, Julius, and his two nieces, Lanaya and Kamala. Matthew was funny, smart, athletic, and talented. He loved music and songwriting. Matthew would wake up early each morning and become a caregiver for his two nieces. He'd fix them cereal and he'd get them dressed. Matthew graduated from high school. He had no children. He had never been married. He had no criminal record, no tattoos, and didn't drink. Matthew's only tie to gun violence was he was once struck by a stray bullet unintended to him as a mere bystander. All this begs the question, why was Matthew in this program? We intend to get to the bottom of that. Youth Villages conducts all of its Memphis Allies Hickory Hill programming at its East Point Business Park location at 405 South Mendenhall Road here in Memphis, Tennessee. As you can see, back in 2023, the space had no fence, the gates were wide open, access was completely unrestricted. Moving forward to April of 2025, on the day of the incident, the only change that you'll see is a perimeter fence had been installed. The gates were still wide open, no security on the exterior was there, and their meeting was all glass. Why would a clandestine meeting occur in such an open public space? And if it was to occur in such an open public space, why was no exterior security provided? These are questions that our lawsuit will seek to answer, will answer. We will hold them accountable for the decisions that they've made. By November of 2025, though, many changes were evident. Sorry, let me go to this one first. This is immediately after the accident in April. As you can see, they've immediately installed two temporary fences on each side, completely restricting any motor vehicle access to the area in front of the Memphis Allies meeting place. Now if we can move to the next slide. Sorry. By November, things had changed drastically. As you can see, the fence now has a cover on it. The gates are closed. There's access limited to both sides of the parking lot. And the circles in the picture, what you can't really tell there, those are two brick walls that were built to cover the glass entryways. All of these things could have and should have been done before ever meeting at a place like this, but they weren't. They were only done after Matthew died. On April 9th at 3:28, the day of the shooting, a stolen white Acura pulls into the lot. And you'll see that in the first picture. Three armed individuals get out and start shooting. You'll see that in the second picture. Three of those bullets hit Matthew, ultimately killing him. What may not be aware is that there's a video of this, and this video has not been shown to the public yet. You're getting ready to see it now. I tell everyone that this may be difficult to see. play it again, and this time I'm going to provide a little bit of context so that everyone understands what they're looking at. All right, before we get started, participants, including Matthew, and Matthew's in the red shoes, are in the common area, the reception area, in between sessions. As you see the white car on the right pull into the camera, that is the stolen Acura and the shooters. As they get out, they begin spraying bullets. There's one gentleman who is outside who crawls back in through the window and hops away. After all of the shooting ends, the one security guard who's there gets up and walks outside to see what's going on. That is the extent of the protections that were provided to the participants of Memphis Allies' Hickory Hill location. Nothing more. Based on reports, 5 people were injured and Matthew was killed. Immediately after the shooting, the suspects got in the stolen car and in broad daylight burned it. We're going to show you a piece of that video as well. The white car is over here behind the tree. If you notice, there's another car across the street. That's a blue Audi that provides a gas can and a getaway for the people in the car. Based on all of this, we're confident that Youth Villages was at a minimum negligent and breached their duty to Matthew and the other participants for failing to provide reasonable security measures. If the facts ended there, we're confident we would have been successful, or we will be successful, on a negligence claim. But that's just the beginning. As set forth in the complaint in much greater detail, Youth Villages had notice of specific, current, and significant dangers facing the Memphis Allies participants in the Hickory Hill location. Red flag after red flag. There had been a recent physical altercation between 2 participants at the Memphis Allies graduation at that location. Statements were made by one of the participants responsible for the killing, accepting responsibility for the killing of another participant's partner. And I will quote, "Smoking on your dead homie's grave." That's what he said. One participant was so hot, his life coach refused to provide him transportation because of fear of retaliatory violence. But that's not all. A 15-year-old Switch youth participant was shot and killed while asleep in his bed in his mom's apartment in Hickory Hill on April 7th, 2025, just 2 days before our shooting. While the 15-year-old Switch youth participant died on April 7th, he was buried in Mississippi, and his obituary gave the date of death as April 15th, after our shooting. Maybe a mistake, maybe not. We intend to find out. Youth Villages and Memphis Allies staff meet every Monday. They review shootings in the area during the previous week, and they discuss ways to connect with anyone who's been either the shooter or the target. They would have known that this shooting took place. They would have known the relationship of the 15-year-old to the program. All of this would have been information that they had possession of a day before our shooting. What did they do? Did they shut it down? Did they take precautionary measures? Did they add security? Did they move the location? Did they do anything? The answer is no. Business as usual. Keep the ball rolling. This project has to move forward. Had they done any due diligence and looked in their own files, they'd know about this 15-year-old, the one that was dead in his bed in his mom's house. Turns out there were red flags there. His 17-year-old brother in jail for murder. Method of murder, shoot in the back of the head. They'd also know the 15-year-old had twice recently been arrested for possession of multiple weapons and pointing weapons at other people. And the juvenile system continued to monitor him and send him back to his mom, and youth villages continued to participate with him. But again, made no changes, did nothing to address these red flags, these dangers. Previously I said we'd have no trouble making a negligence case. But with these red flags, with this information, with this knowledge, we have moved into a whole other hemisphere called punitive damages. Because to me and to my partners, you know what this is? This is the conscious disregard for the safety of others. This is a how dare you. How dare you step forward in my community, put forth a program to derail gun violence and do nothing to protect the people from gun violence. They will pay. At this time, I'd like to introduce Crystal Buck and have her say a few words about Matthew.
How y'all doing? Well, my baby was a loving child. He was sweet. Ooh. He give you the shirt off his back. My baby. I can't do this.
Good morning. My name is Sean Williams. I'm one of the partners here at Cochran Firm in the Mid-South. And it's difficult for Ms. Buck because she should not even be here. And the reason she's here was so preventable. One of the most interesting things about what you saw in that video is that the individuals involved in the murder of Matthew had a plan. They had a plan before they got there. They had a plan afterwards. But you know who didn't have a plan? Youth villages. They didn't have a plan to protect Matthew and the other people who they have solicited and marketed and told this whole state that they were there to protect. That's why this is so tragic. And they knew about these issues. The other thing is we're here after you've seen everything you've seen. You know we're here because of broken promises. There have been various broken promises. Matthew's not here because of multiple broken promises. Youth villages made promises to the state of Tennessee. They told the state of Tennessee, and they promised we would build programs, crime prevention, intervention programs to protect the youth in our highest risk communities. That was a promise. In exchange for that promise, they've gotten over $700 million over the last several years. We know today that promise wasn't met. But they got the money, and they still have it, and did nothing with that money to prevent this from happening. They made a promise to the city of Memphis, to our community and our leaders, that they had a solution for gun violence. But we see today, they didn't make and meet that promise. They made a promise to Ms. Buck that they would protect her son. and give him every opportunity in this program. They didn't meet that promise. They made a promise to Matthew that they would protect him and give him a chance to have a better life. That promise can't be met. He's not here. Every one of the promises that they have committed to this family, to this community, they broke. And when you break promises, you have to be accountable for them. And we at the Cochran firm, Howard, Attorney Bush, we're going to fight to hold youth villages accountable. We're going to hold them accountable for the loss of Matthew. In that accountability, we're going to ask for a few things. We're going to seek full justice and compensation for this family. They deserve it. We're going to demand that youth villages immediately implement stronger security and safety measures. Just having some fences is not enough, and gates. We need security. If you're going to have a program that markets the way you have it, you need to protect the people in that program. We want to make sure there's no more press conferences, other families that have to deal with this. Not only in Memphis, everywhere, because they have taken this program and used it to go get other programs and other money from other states. We're also asking for those same state legislators who voted in support of this money to youth villages. We're asking for the mayor of Memphis. We're asking for the community leaders to hold youth villages accountable. Hold them accountable for the $700 million they've gotten, and make them use that money to protect the people that's in the program as they promised. And we are asking for a full investigation, both from a city perspective and state perspective, of every youth village program to make sure that they are carrying out the promises that they made and protecting our youth. Matthew deserves that. This family deserves that. So we're asking the community to stand with this family, stand with our firm, as we seek justice for Matthew against youth villages. Thank you.
The attorneys are prepared to answer a few questions, if there are any.
Last time that Youth Villages was sued, it was Youth Villages proper, but that ended in some sort of deal off to the side. What sort of, are you guys dead set on taking this to trial to get all of this out in the public, or are you more focused on, getting those state investigations and that compensation?
We are going to do whatever it takes to get justice for this family and Matthew. If that means taking it to trial, I can promise you this, Mr. Williams, myself, and Mr. Bush are more than capable of doing that.
Just so I understand, that program at Memphis Allies is still continuing to this day?
At that location.
And you talked about some of the security implementation, but what's your reaction to that?
It's a start. Definitely not enough. Mr. Williams just hit on that. There still wasn't, or at least as far as we know, and obviously we're not privy to some of what's been done post, but I don't believe that there's actual active armed or guard security out there. A lot of perfunctory, gates and fences, but I mean, these were identified as the highest at-risk people, and the response to that security need was a fence.
Lauren Festino, the Daily Memphian. Forgive me if this is already in your complaint, but I wanted to ask a little bit more about why Mr. Williams was part of this program. I know that you said they will be seeking that through some of this discovery in the lawsuit, but at least maybe how long he was part of the program and who the program was together with.
Our understanding is that Mr. Williams was brought into the program through door-to-door search through Memphis Allies. We are investigating the extent of his involvement, and that, a lot of that's in the possession of the youth villages that we'll get in discovery, and we'll be able to comment possibly more on that. Mr. Bush, do you have anything to add to that?
As a quick follow-up, if you don't mind, I appreciate that you shared the names of businesses that he was taking care of. For those of you family and friends, supporters who are here today, for those of you who want to be named, you might be able to share who you are.
We'll give that information to Mr. Jules and pass it on to him.
Mike Finch from OK50. Was wondering if how you all, I know you all talk about reaching the duty of care and not being enough done for community violence intervention programs. Have you all been able to establish like a standard across maybe the country? Because I know the programs are fairly new.
We will be prepared to put on expert proof, some of which we think that they were privy to, that will establish that what they did was far below necessary. That information really will need to come from expert testimony, but I don't think anyone in this room would look at that video and say they did enough.
And to follow up on that information oftentimes goes through experts, but we also use our common sense. If you're going to have a program that youth villages brag about markets, solicit money to maintain, and you're going to put it in a community and you're going to have individuals who have issues with each other and you have knowledge of that, and you're going to have it in broad daylight where people can come and go, that right there is not reasonable. We don't need an expert for that, but we have one. But from an industry standpoint, when it's foreseeable that you know that there is a likely chance of danger to the people you have a duty to protect, that's reasonable standards, and that's what we didn't get here.
And under Tennessee law, the greater the danger, the greater the duty, okay? So this is probably significantly high. There's something else I would like to follow up with what Mr. Williams just said that's in our complaint, but we really haven't touched on it yet, and it will be something we fully develop, is the funding aspects of this. Youth Villages is a 501c3, which means they don't pay taxes. Okay? This program was funded in combination between public and private money. Millions, I mean millions of public funds were authorized and used for this program. Where is the accountability for that? Youth Villages has 600 million?
Well, Youth Villages is a sophisticated, successful enterprise, and that large number reflects the assets that they have, their net assets. They raise significant, substantial funding, public and private, for Memphis Allies and for Switch, not 700 million. That's the result of all of their undertakings.
But the point being is they have the money to spend, and spend prudently and wisely to protect Matthew, and they didn't.
So if you don't use the money to do basic minimum security measures, what are you doing with the money? And why are you in business even as a nonprofit if you're not going to take the funds that you've received, a lot of it taxpayer money, and use that money to protect the people that you have promised to protect? That's reckless to me.
Imani Williams with Channel 5, or actually News 5. We have talked about how a lot of people know about Youth Villages, Memphis Allies, and it is marketed to the community, but also we've heard lawmakers and city leaders tout what Memphis Allies is supposed to be doing. What do you have to say to the city leaders, county leaders that are also marketing this as an option for people that are part of gun violence or have been impacted by gun violence in Memphis?
Watch that video, see if you're comfortable standing by that. Do the due diligence. Ask the questions. Be critical of how they're spending money. Hold them accountable. This is our city. These are the funds that the governor had authorized for gun violence in this area. And this is how they spent it. And these public officials are all touting it. It's lip service, unless you do the homework and you see really what's going on. I don't think anyone can look at that video, and there's a reason why that video hadn't been played before today. That's the question that needs to be asked. Why am I the one showing you this video? Why 10 months after a shooting am I having to beg, borrow, and steal basically to get this video in my hands and then force the issue to play it today? Okay? That's the question that we need to start asking, is why is everybody covering for this organization? Yeah, they've done good things in the past, but this is not a good thing. No one can look at that and say, good job, Youth Villages. Sorry.
Your lawsuit, this is Laura Tessino dealing in your lawsuits, and you spoke today about establishing Memphis as a laboratory under Youth Villages for other areas. There's also a handful of other locations where this program operates in Memphis. Does the lawsuit seek to establish whether or not there are any security or dangers at any of the other locations already operating in Memphis?
Our lawsuit is to seek justice and to find out what happened to Matthew. If that includes while we're doing that we learned in other places, other opportunities for to have better security measures, then we will bring that out. But it's not our responsibility to make sure this is good. It's those leaders that's been touting this program. It's the state. They should be making sure, and that's what I asked for. Let's investigate everything to make sure that we're not having this press conference for some other family and then asking to investigate that location. And so ultimately, we're here for Matthew, but we're going to do everything possible to make sure they change so that this doesn't happen to anyone else.
Desmond Newton, ABC 24. Speaking of accountability, it's been nearly a year and some time since this tragic situation happened. Has there ever been any communication, any apology to the family since her son was taken away?
We're not going to speak as to any communications that may or may not have occurred with the defense or Youth Villages representatives. I will say that there's been nothing that's been positive.
One last question from me. I know we talked about security as well, and you mentioned earlier that it seemed as if the people that came in that white car had some type of plan. Do you know if these people were a part of the program? Because we have been told that these locations are supposed to be secret. You're not supposed to know about these locations. So how would they know?
Well, so that raises the point that I was talking about by this video not being shown, because no one's been charged other than the blue Audi that provided the gas can. So the individual, the 4 people in the white Acura have not been identified or charged. If you're in possession of a video that shows the vehicle that's used, and we know that it was stolen 4 months earlier, so we have a 4-month window where that car has been driving around the city. People have seen it, people know who's got it, but the video that sets it out never makes it to the news or to the public. Sounds like to me somebody's really not interested in trying to figure out who's involved in this thing. And that is concerning to me. You know, we've done a tremendous amount of legwork to get to where we were ready to file. This isn't your standard wrongful death complaint where it says somebody got shot, security was bad, they should be held responsible. I want everyone to take the time to look at this complaint, to see the details about the program, about the money, about why these things were not made public, all of these things, because those are from a lawyer's perspective, what's going on here? How is it that the public wasn't shown this till today? How is it that nobody's been asked, hey, does anybody know who's been driving around this stolen white Acura for 4 months? We might want to talk to them because they may be shooters. Nothing.
Community violence intervention work is making communities all over the country safer. Community violence intervention work needs to be done with integrity. We need that here. Job one for the integrity of community violence intervention is keeping participants and staff safe. That wasn't done in Memphis.
And job 2 is for the community to hold the programs that are in place accountable. Programs like this are not bad. They're only bad if you don't do them the right way. And if you don't do them as you promised to be done. And so, as a community, all we're asking is for our leaders to make sure that Youth Village and other programs are doing it the right way for our youth. And don't give us lip service with it.
My last question is, what is your message to any parents or family members who have children or have family members in this particular program right now?
Make sure your child is protected. Make sure the program is doing everything possible to make sure your child is safe. And if you don't feel that way, then don't put them in that program. Find another alternative. But if the number one position of this program is to stop violence, crime prevention, and intervention, they need to do something to make sure it doesn't happen to others.
I think it's also important to note, while we're here on behalf of Matthew's family, other people were injured. 5 other people were shot. This firm actually represents one of those and will be filing a lawsuit on his behalf in the coming weeks. I anticipate that the others who were shot may be doing the same. Statute of limitations will be up in April of 2026, April 9th of 2026. So all of those who are moving forward in a lawsuit will have done so by then. So this wasn't, while we're here about Matthew, this was bigger than just that. I mean, there were others that were put in danger. Staffers, participants. There has to be accountability. And I think that accountability can come from asking questions, demanding answers, whether it's from parents, the press, the lawyers. We all have to. This is our community. We want to make it a safe place, but we got to do things the right way. That's just not the right way. And it's unfortunate and it's horrible that this family is left to suffer and to loss. And we will get them justice. Thank you.